Hi, Ebony. So let's talk about Porsha and Shamea, because I was watching the Real Housewives of Atlanta yesterday, and one thing that struck me was that their friendship has been in jeopardy for some time. And according to Porsha, it seems like it's been in jeopardy or up and down, I would say, for many, many years. So we're talking even before Shamea got married. And that was years ago. Shamea's got 2 children now. So let's talk about Shamea and Porsha, because one thing that has struck out to me is how Porsha has been acting towards Shamea in this season. So I think we're on season 16 now. And years before that, if you've been a fan of the show, you would know that Shamea has been on the show before, but she's always been a friend of the show. So what's happened recently is that now she herself has got a peach to be one of the housewives on the show, which enables her to showcase her life a bit more. And let me tell you something, Shamea is that girl. Like, I literally look at Shamea and think, yeah, she is that woman. She is an ebony Black woman who is thriving, who is living an amazing life. And she doesn't even portray probably half of how her life actually is, because we don't actually get to see her husband that much on the show. And that was something that came up yesterday in the episode. So let me just give you a quick kind of rundown of what happened. So Porsha and Shamea are obviously friends, and I believe that they are best friends. They've known each other since high school. They were able to show, pictures of them going back to when they were teenagers. Their mothers have also been friends in the past. I don't think they are at the moment, but they did acknowledge that their mums have been friends in the past. I think they had some issues there going on. But what's happened over the years, and this is quite common in a lot of friendships, so this is why I'm bringing my spin onto it, is because I see this happen a lot in friendships between women and females. And that is the fact that it's natural for us to grow out of friendships, but sometimes, and a lot of the times, we as women, because we cherish those friendships so much, we find it so hard to let those friendships go, almost to the point that we accept certain behaviors from our friends, or we'll see the disrespect and the shade that's being thrown from our friends, but we would downplay it. And even when it's around other people, we won't want to necessarily believe that our best friend could speak to you like that, or your best friend could treat you like that, or your best friend could essentially be like that towards you, because they've never necessarily been like that before. Or maybe they have, it's just that you weren't able to really acknowledge it then. And like I said, a lot of the times in friendships, women do start to brush things under the rug and brush it under the carpet, because who wants to believe that their best friend is now turning practically into their enemy? And what we're seeing out play on Real Housewives of Atlanta is Porsha showing some type of disdain, some type of dislike, or even some type of annoyance towards Shamea. And I was watching it and I was trying to pinpoint, where has this happened? Like, why has this happened? And I would say this goes back to the beginning of the season. So I think this situation and this point of bringing up about Shamea being on the show, and apparently Porsha didn't like it, but then Porsha defended herself and said, well, actually, no, she was in support of Shamea being on the show, but Shamea's husband doesn't want to film. And we all know that Real Housewives is about, showcasing your life, showcasing your children, showcasing your partner. And I don't necessarily disagree with Shamea's husband not wanting to be on the show, because if we look at the track record of other people and other relationships on that show, it's not been great. We've witnessed on Real Housewives of anything, Real Housewives of New Jersey, Real Housewives of New York, Real Housewives of Orange County, Real Housewives, which other ones have they got? Real Housewives of Potomac, Real Housewives of Miami. The list goes on, and we have witnessed relationships fail, marriages suffer because of being in the spotlight to this degree. And Real Housewives puts many women, into celebrity status. As much as we might not want to admit it, the fact that these shows are still running means that there's still an audience that is still watching these shows. So it can put a strain on marriages. And I think what's happening here is that it's definitely put a strain on the relationship and the friendship between Porsha and Shamea. Now, Porsha I think she's amazing, like beautiful, beautiful woman. I go to her Instagram sometimes and I look at her pictures and I think, wow, shout out to your stylist, shout out to your hairstylist, because your clothes are always on point. She knows how to wear clothes for her body type. She knows her assets. She's quite confident as well. She's very confident, bubbly. She's got personality to her. So she's not just all about the body. Like Porsha does have a personality. She's not boring to watch. I know that people are stating her appearance in this season, but overall, Porsha has been entertaining on Real Housewives. We can't deny that. And she's definitely tapping into her boss woman era, because she's obviously going through a divorce and she's trying to get to the bag. Like you can see that she's very focused on her money, very focused on her businesses. One thing that I've seen during Real Housewives is the impact that the divorce has taken on her. And it seems like Porsha really did have some type of feelings for Simon, even though I couldn't see why she would date someone who looks so much older than her. But it seems like it really has had an impact on her, and we can't downplay that. It must be embarrassing for her. You know, she had this big, massive, lavish wedding. I think she had at least 2 weddings, one African-themed wedding, and now she's going through a divorce. Do you know how embarrassing that can be for a woman? And she's already got a small child, a small daughter. So for her, I can understand where she is mentally. And I think what we're seeing on the show are 2 things. We are seeing some jealousy and some envy towards Shamea from Porsha, but we are also seeing Porsha going through it emotionally. She is going through it, regardless of whether the marriage lasted, long. It wasn't a long marriage. She's going through it mentally and emotionally, and you can see that in her body language. You can see that she's not as happy as she used to be. In past seasons, you get to see a Porsha who is happy, bubbly, glowing. You see it through her eyes. In this season, you don't so much see that glow that I've seen from Porsha. And one thing you have to remember is that Porsha is friends with Shamea. And Shamea, to me, is that girl. She is that woman. Shamea is married. She's been married for many, many years. She seems to have a stable, loving, supportive marriage, which is what a lot of women want. Nobody knew that Shamea was that rich. Her husband has a good job. I don't know what he does. Obviously, he's not a fan of being in the spotlight, but she has a beautiful home. She has a supportive family. You get to see a lot of Shamea's family around her sisters, her mum, other family members. So she seems that she's quite close to her family. You get to see her being a mother. And also you get to see Shamea trying to be independent in the sense of having her own thing. So we know that Shamea likes singing. She's great at dancing. So it seems like she's trying to build herself and build some things for herself to own, rather than just being a wife. And that's positive and that's great. And that is something that I'm going to break down in another video, just why Shamea is that girl. But I think what's happening is that Shamea is living the life that Porsha thought that she was going to live. And in the drop of a hat, Porsha has had that taken away from her. So that's resulted in Porsha obviously going through it emotionally, but she's best friends with a girl, a woman who has and is living currently the lifestyle that Shamea has built up for herself, but that Porsha essentially thought that she was going to have. Now imagine being friends with someone like that and witnessing that. No matter how strong of a woman you are, sometimes that can be hard. You can admit to yourself that can be hard to see other people, moving, their life is moving in a direction that maybe you thought your life was going to be in. And now Porsha essentially is back to the drawing board, and she's trying to figure out ways of how she's going to sustain the lifestyle that she had become accustomed to just by being in that marriage alone. And as short as that marriage was, she still became accustomed quickly, because it seems like Porsha loved money. So she became accustomed to that lifestyle very, very quickly. And she was almost on par with Shamea's lifestyle, even though Shamea's husband, I think he's a businessman. Obviously, we don't really know much about Simon and what he does. But during that time, they were probably much more closer because they were very aligned. So what Porsha had, Shamea also had. What Shamea had, Porsha also had. And even if Porsha didn't own any of that, the fact is that she could show to the world that, look, I live in this amazing big house. Look, I've got this car and that car. Look, my husband gave me this car. Look, I'm flying out to Nigeria. Look, I'm mixing and mingle with Nigerian celebrities, you know. There was and I don't know how much, whether Porsha is a show girl, like whether she just does things so that people can get the facade that she's living a certain lifestyle. But regardless, she still was living a lifestyle and portraying a lifestyle that aligned a lot more with Shamea's lifestyle. Now, what we're seeing outplay is Porsha's lifestyle may have to change. And when I say that, it may have to change if she's not able to afford the lifestyle that she's been accustomed to, which is why we're probably seeing Porsha working and trying to build up businesses. And I think she said on one of the episodes that, you know, she's going all in. She wants to be a multi-millionaire, billionaire, whatever. Like, she's going in because she probably feels like, and especially having a friend like Shamea, she probably feels like she needs to be at least on that same level or above Shamea's level. So what we're seeing here is probably some jealousy or some envious feelings underlying. I still feel that Porsha has love for Shamea. I think there's been a few things on Instagram come out recently, but until that episode I thought, well, I'm sure that they can work this out and there's still some love there. But when you're going through it emotionally as a woman and you see someone else who's not necessarily going through what you're going through, you can take it so personal that any little thing that you hear about this person and what they may have said about you behind your back becomes the biggest thing ever. So my point to my ebonies, to you ladies, is yes, be careful with your friends, because sometimes I look at Porsha and I think, gosh, who needs enemies when you have a friend like Porsha? Because Porsha does throw shade. Porsha throws shade at her enemies and Porsha will throw shade at her friends. And that can be dangerous. Because once a person gets comfortable in continually putting down their friend, especially in public and around other people, it takes a lot for that person to then recognize it and to stop. The person tends to build up momentum and they start to do it more. And it's only until you as that friend put boundaries in place and show this person that you are not to be disrespected, that they then kind of rein it back in. But can they maintain it? Because a lot of the times people rein it back in just for the fact that they want to show you, no, I'm your friend, we're good, I'm your friend, I've got your back. But they can't sustain it for that long. And then the true colours come out again, or the shade starts coming out again, and the jealousy rears its head again. And that's when you know, if that person can't sustain respecting you, then you know that this person is not your friend. And I see this happen a lot in, like I said, female friendships. And especially with black women, I think that there is some underlying competition there, definitely. And I don't know whether it's from Shamea. I don't get that sense. I feel like Shamea is very content, and she should be. She's content in her marriage and in her life. She doesn't share much difficulties that have gone on in her marriage. I do question whether there are some things that, you know, that Porsha knows, because Shamea does stick up for Porsha a lot. And I feel like, is there something that Porsha has over Shamea, which is why she wants to keep this friendship going and she doesn't want to see the breakdown of this friendship? Because essentially Porsha is that type of friend that I would have got rid of a long time ago, and we would not be as close, and I would not be that bothered to save it. But then it could just be that actually, no, she's known Shamea's known Porsha since teenage years. So she could just really want to save that friendship. But my lesson here to you ladies is just to be careful of your friendships. And when you do start to see the disrespect creeping in, when you start to see the shade that starts to get thrown, when you start to see jealousy maybe rear its head, it's not to cut the friendship off immediately, no. Because sometimes we all go through those times and those moments where we might feel jealous or a bit envious, but underlying that, and overall, we feel happy for our friend. We feel happy for their blessings. We know that, you know, you're going through maybe a down season now, but that can change. God is always with us. He can change things. So I just feel like with Porsha, she does say things. And the other thing that I wanted to come to in terms of what Porsha says is when she made that comment to one of the other housewives, well, she was talking to the girls outside and they were in the pool, and then I think it's Angela, one of the housewives, she could hear them having a conversation about her behind her back while she was in her room. And what she heard was Porsha say, if she's going to keep coming for me, I'm going to F her husband. Now, that is a dangerous friend. And Angela was right to call Shamea out to say, well, actually, you as a married woman, you need to check your friend. And this comes back to the point of me thinking, does Porsha have something over Shamea that she feels that she just can't stick up for herself or challenge Porsha when she's wrong? Because as a friend, it is wrong to go to any females and say to them, if this woman doesn't stop with me, I'm going to F her husband. Like, why would that thought even come to your head? Why? As a female myself, I would never think that a way for me to get back at someone is that, all right, I'm going to go and F your husband so that essentially I can break up your marriage, because that's what it does. It creates problems. The moment that husband goes and steps up that one time with a female in your friendship group or your social group is the moment that that marriage becomes severely damaged, to the point that some people can't even recover from that. And we know that Porsha's got a history of, being with some people's husbands. She's done that to Fallon when she got with Simon. We saw her all on Real Housewives of Atlanta in their home, in Fallon and Simon's home, with Porsha around, only for us to establish that then Porsha's got with Simon and he's no longer with Fallon, and they were married. So we know that Porsha has that side to her. And this is why I say, move with caution. Be careful of who you have around you. Be careful of who you do actually call your friend. And even if they are your quote unquote best friend, don't be so naive to think that your best friend can't betray you, especially if they're going through it and they feel like you are the enemy. They might turn against you and think you're my enemy now, when essentially what you're trying to do is just be there for them and support them. But they are going through it so much that they will find everything and anything to be able to nitpick and put you down and turn you into their enemy. So Porsha has to be careful, because, she's not sowing her seeds that great with the women. Her being with Fallon's husband, Simon, and her being married to Simon, getting a divorce now, and then making that comment to say, don't basically mess with me, otherwise I'm going to F your husband. Again, why would you say that? Why would that thought even come to your mind as a way to get back at another woman? That is one of the lowest levels, the meanest levels to get back at another woman. And that's what I don't agree with when it comes to Porsha. And I do think that women like Porsha, we have to protect ourselves from them, because yes, they're beautiful. Yes, they might have connections. Yes, they know how to dress and how to style themselves and how to look nice, and their hair's always laid and flawless. But at the same time, let's look at the character. And I do feel like with Porsha, there's something going on in her character that's just not sitting right with me. And it's a shame. And I hope she does get back to her best self, because it's a shame. She's a beautiful woman on the outside. We just want the mindset to match it on the inside. So ladies, definitely be aware of ladies like Porsha. Like I said, who needs enemies when you've got friends like Porsha? And I think that, and it's not to bash her, because she's an amazing looking woman, but it's not just about looks. We're talking about, what's your mindset like? What's your personality about? If you're going through something, how do you react? And Porsha's not really taking it too well, and maybe her even being on the show wasn't the right time, given that she is going through it emotionally. Remember, she still is a mother, and being a mom for her is probably her priority above everything. So she probably should have taken a bit more time just to get through the divorce and then come back onto the show, and she could have shown, she would have gone through that healing. She would have taken time out, and she would have come back as a better version of Porsha that we would have got to see. So I hope that I think the season's ending soon, but I hope that we get to, if Porsha comes back on the next season, I hope we do get to see a better version of Porsha, where she can make amends with people. She can own up to her, the things that she's done wrong against people, things that she said against people. The reunion always seems to drag things up, so we'll see how that plays out. But I just wanted to do a video on jealous women and how they can be, and why it's important to spot that and to protect yourself, ladies, from these type of women. Protect yourself, protect your peace, because that's what matters. And if you are on my healing journey or on your healing journey and you want to heal with me, I've got a course below. I've got my scripting packet. I've got my templates of affirmations that you can say to yourself to really tap into your goddess self and unlock the goddess within you. So all that information is in the description box below. If any of my ladies, if you need any mentoring, any coaching, I'm here for you. Again, reach out to me. My email is right down below, and I'll catch you in another video.